In this episode, we will be replacing the brake master window, bleeding the brakes and clutch master, restoring and installing the turn signals, restoring and installing the mufflers, filling the coolant and fitting the gas tank, and starting the bike up for the first time.
Okay, so in this short segment, I'm going to replace the sight glass in the front brake master cylinder. There's a crack, I'm not sure if you can pick that up in the camera, through the glass. So we're going to remove that with, hopefully with the Dremel. I've got some various cutting bits, so I'm going to do that very carefully so as not to damage the casting itself. And then I've got a replacement part here. This is actually, there's not a specific part that I can find for the VF1000R, but I did a measurement. It looks to be an 18mm window, and then I was able to buy just kind of it's actually for the VF1000 F, I think. It's the sight glass for that brake master. Similar brake master, 18mm seems to be the right replacement for this. So yeah, we're going to remove the old one very carefully, and then hopefully we'll be able to press the replacement window in with its O-ring. And you can get these off eBay. I'll put a link to this in the description, but you can get various sizes all the way from 10mm, I think maybe up to 18mm seems to be the biggest. There may be some bigger ones, but anyway, let's see. Hopefully we can get this done and get the brake master fitted back to the bike.
And so here I'm just using a small cutting bit on the Dremel to remove the plastic window.
Okay, so I've, as you can see here, I've removed the plastic window with the Dremel, and I'm using a cone-shaped cutting bit there. Works great. Now what I have to do is basically in there, you can just see it, there is the original O-ring, and then that's held in place by the metal ring you can see there around the new window. So that's still, even though I've drilled out the plastic, that metal ring is press fitted into the aperture, and that's holding the O-ring in. So now what I've got to carefully do is cut through that ring to relieve the pressure, and then I should be able to peel that out, and then we can fit the new window. So I'll do that now.
So here you can see the side plate, O-ring and retaining ring removed. Now we can fit the new window and O-ring.
Okay, so I've fitted the O-ring. Now I just place the window in the aperture. It's a press fit, so I won't be able to do it by hand. So what I'll be doing, I've got a socket, 12mm socket, which is the exact, close to the exact diameter, just slightly under for the window, and I'm now going to press fit that with the socket in the vise.
Here we have the new window neatly pressed into the master cylinder. For now, I can mount the master cylinder to the bike and bleed the brakes. On all my restorations for both brake fluid and clutch fluid, I use a silicon dot 5 as this does not damage the paint if it's accidentally spilt. With the front brakes successfully bled, I now repeat the procedure on the rear brake master cylinder and clutch master cylinder.
For this portion of the video, I'm going to restore and assemble the turn signals for the VF1000R. So I've laid out all the parts, and luckily I've been able to source all the parts I need, OE parts. So I've got the 4 housings, which are in the correct gloss black. Now these will need, they're good, there's no major damage on them, but they will need a polish because they've got some little scuffs. So I'm hoping I can polish these out and avoid having to paint them, because they've got a very high gloss finish to the plastic, and even though I can paint them high gloss black, they never quite look the same as the original finish, and you can generally tell they've been painted. So hopefully we can polish these out and they'll look like new. I've got 4 of those. I've got the housing mounts, rubber mounts here. I've got 4 of those OE, and they're the correct 5 ridge version. So if you count the number of ridges, there's 5 ridges, which is correct. These are quite difficult to come by now, because a lot of the time if the bike goes down the road, it tears out the mounting blades here, or the mounting bolt there. But luckily I've got 4 good used parts, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to restore the rubber using a goo off. So this is a technique I use for old rubber parts. What I do is I'll immerse the part, take a jar with some goo off, or goof off in there. I'll place the rubber part in, and then I'll just swirl it around, make sure the part is been fully covered, and then take a toothbrush, which I've got here, and again I'll dip the toothbrush in and just give it a final clean, and these will come out looking like new. The goof off removes all all the dirt and grime that's built up over the years. Really does a good job of cleaning them, and then I'll use a rubber conditioner on them once they've been cleaned. And then I've got 4 good, really nice lenses, and these are the genuine Stanley lenses. So that's how you can tell if these are genuine turn signals. They're made by Stanley. 1156 is the code on these. 3 really nice ones, actually, no cracks or scratches. This one, you can see maybe it's dulled, but we can easily polish that up to look like the others. So what I'll do is I'll just polish this like I would any paintwork. So I'll, if it had any major scratches in it, I would actually sand it back with 2000 grit. In this case, it actually doesn't look to have any scratches at all, so I should be able to just go straight to this with the cutting compound. I'll use a heavy cutting compound, and I think that's going to polish up just nice. So I've got 4 Stanley lenses, which is great. I've got the mounting hardware. I'm missing 2 nuts, but I'll order those. Yeah, there's 4 large Phillips headed screws there for actually mounting the case to the rubber extender, and then there's 4 small countersunk screws here, which are for attaching the lens to the case. Yeah, so I've got the 4 OE bulb holders that I need. The front 2 left and right are 3-wire, which is standard for the US for bikes from this era. So there's one element that comes on when the lights are on, and then you've actually got the turn signal element itself. So they're 3-wire, and the light blue and the light blue with a white stripe, and then the orange, and then the orange with the white stripe. So that's left and right front, and then orange and green is for the rear, only 2-wire for the rear, and then blue and green. So these have got damaged wire covers, sleeves, so we'll be replacing those, and I've got some similar sleeving, so I'll remove this old and cracked sleeving and replace that before we fit the indicators to the bike. Okay, so I've finished restoring the 4 rubber mounts for the turn signals. They came out great. Don't know if you can see how good they look now. But yeah, just again, I use Goof Off Pro Strength to first clean the rubbers, and you can see here the amount of dirt that came off them, and also in here. So that's all 35 plus years of grime all coming out there, and then I use the Back to Black just to seal them, because the Goof Off will dry them out, as I said. So always best to then just seal them, and I'll probably give them another coat of this once I install them on the bike. But that's good. So that's the 4 rubber mounts done. So I think now I'm going to polish the housings. Okay, so yeah, I've got the housing, which is a high gloss black plastic, and I only want to give these a very light polish, because it is possible to actually remove the gloss from these if you over polish them. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use, I like this Meguiar's Ultimate Compound. It's kind of an all-round compound, and it's, I would say, medium cut, light to medium cut. So I do like it for this. You can use also a plastic polish. Plasti-X is a good one, which I've got, but I think that's not quite as heavy cutting as I would like, the plastic cutting compound. So I'm going to actually go with this one. Yeah, so I'm going to give all 4 a good polish. Hopefully we can get a clean enough finish on them that'll be good enough for the, you know, to match the rest of the bike. It's not going to be perfect, but then they actually weren't that great coming out of the factory. Okay, put you on time lapse while I get those polished.
Note here, I'm polishing everything by hand, as using a DA or orbital polisher, you run the risk of burning through the finish on the plastics or melting the plastic.
Okay, so I've finished polishing the housings, and yeah, these came out fantastic, as you can see. So that was just a light polish with the ultimate compound, and yeah, I did it by hand. That's the most important thing. Don't try to speed this up and take any shortcuts using a machine polisher, unless you're highly experienced, because there is the possibility to burn through this gloss finish. And you can actually see here on the cloth, this was a brand new clean cloth, you can see what the grime and everything that comes out of the plastic, yeah, when you use the cutting compound. And yeah, I'm really pleased. All 4 of these have come out really nice. It's really hard to be able to find 4 housings OE in this condition that, you know, haven't been scraped either due to a tip over or the bike going down the road. So very happy with that. So that's good. We've got the housings done now. We've got the rubber mounts. So next step, I think we will polish the lenses. Now for these, I typically do use a machine polisher, just because this is pretty tough plastic, and yeah, you can get away with it, and it's a lot quicker than doing it by hand, especially for this one here that's quite badly oxidized. I'm hoping I can just use the machine polisher on this and not have to, say, first sand it with 2000 grit wet and dry. So yeah, let's get those polished, and yeah, I'll put you on time lapse and bring you back when they're done. Okay, so we've got the 4 lenses polished. Again, extremely happy with the way these came out, especially this one, which was the one that was heavily oxidized. But yeah, all original Stanley, and no scratches or chunks missing out of any of them, or any cracks even. So that's a really nice set of lenses to have.
So now we can fully assemble the turn signals.
Okay, and here we have the finished turn signals, and as you can see, they came out absolutely fantastic. Very happy with those.
On the VF1000R, the reflectors and the reflector mounting brackets are mounted along with the turn signals. So before I can mount the turn signals to the bike, I'm going to clean and polish the reflectors. Finally, the turn signals fitted back to the bike.
Okay, so I'm going to start now restoring the mufflers for the VF1000R. I had done some work on these previously, but not finished them off. So what I'm going to do, I've got the correct kind of semi-gloss high temp paint for the connecting pipe, and but I'll do that once I've finished resurfacing the actual muffler, whatever you want to call this, muffler cover or cone. This has got a lot of small little defects in. I took the worst of the defects out when I originally worked on these, but there's a lot of fine scratches in the cover. So what I'm going to do, actually, the best way to get the right finish on this, which will be a slightly satin finish, similar to the OE, is to actually take out all the defects. I'll sand those out. And then I'll actually polish this to a fairly high level of polish shine, and then I will take some very fine Scotch-Brite and put a slight dull the surface after it's polished, and then dull it with a very fine Scotch-Brite to give the correct satin finish from factory.
And with the major defects removed, I can now polish the cover. And with the cover polished, I can now use the Scotch-Brite pad to put on the final factory satin finish. And here we have the finished product. And so now we can mask the cover so we can paint the link pipe. And since the link pipe doesn't reach the same temperatures as the header, I can use the KBS Motor Coater engine enamel to get a perfect OE finish. And with the mufflers now installed on the bike. And before we can start the bike up for the first time with its restored components, I need to refill the coolant, restore the radiator gas cap and cover, fit the gas tank, and prime the fuel system. major components now installed and the bike running, the only thing that remains is to complete the bodywork and install before doing a final reveal. Please stay tuned for the next video in the VF1000R Restoration Reboot series.